Hi, I'm David Birmingham. I'm with Bright Light Consulting. You may recognize me from the NZ Universe or from my books, Netezza Transformation and Netezza Underground. I've spent a lot of time with the Netezza platform, and what we're seeing today are a lot of things that people are doing with it as the machines are maturing and as they're reaching performance peaks, and they want to know how to get more out of their box and more out of the capacity that they already have. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. So our system worked great originally, and now it's starting to slow down. The bigger the data gets, the slower it seems to go. The more queries we run, the slower they seem to go. And we can't seem to get the functionality out of it that we thought we could, and we don't have the capacity that we thought we could. We feel like we're running down here somewhere when we really ought to be up here. Have we really reached the walls of the box? Have we hit the capacity, and now we need to take a look at maybe hardware upgrade or something else like that? Maybe we don't want to answer those questions right away. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe we really are running the box stressed out to the walls, and really we only need this much power. And that's the question we really need to ask. How much power do we really need to run the solution that we're running, and are we using more of the capacity than we really need? So some of the mistakes people make when they start to go into stress on one of these machines, they'll start to do engineering. They'll build bridge structures, or they'll build summary structures and try to tune up the data in another way without actually touching the base model. Or they'll go into a false economy model where they'll say, I know I have something distributed over here on one particular key, but the users are using it on another one. I'm going to force them to use this without making them a new structure just for them. And so I'm not going to build a model that they can use. I'm going to force them to use the model that I've actually built for them that maybe I don't need at all. But if it works, working for me but not for them, I'm okay with that. Some of these are really false economies. What we're really doing is saying we're going to save a little disk space and we're going to sacrifice the user's performance with this. And that's not a good trade-off. And we find out later that not only could we have just used maybe a few terabytes more to give them a stellar experience, and what was it really worth to circle the wagons around all that disk space when it wasn't doing anybody any good anyway. What we want is the performance out of the machine. It's not really about the disk space. It's about making sure that they're getting a good user experience, and that's very easy to do inside of one of these machines. So one of the things we see is that in our former appliance or our former box, like an Oracle machine or a Sybase machine, we were using a load balancing engine, a general purpose engine, and we built a very purpose-built data model, and everybody had to use that. So now we're going to bring another data model over to this box, and the Netezza box, it's a purpose-built machine, where the other machine was a general purpose machine. And now we're going to try to build a general purpose model, which doesn't make any sense at all. We want to try to build a model that once it faces the users, is actually built to shape exactly the data that they want to see, and they get the user experience they're expecting. It's not hard to shape the data inside the machine. The machine is very powerful in moving data around, but if we try to protect that and we try to say we're going to do a general purpose model, people start to hate that. They say we want a model built for us. And then so once they've hated the model and once they don't like what we've done, it doesn't really buy us anything to have a purist model. It buys us something to have a practical model. And that's when the modeling juices start to turn. People say, I have over there on that dimension, I have a single column that I want to pull over on the fact table. And a purist would say, no, it doesn't belong on the fact table. One of the problems that we see in a lot of these systems is that we'll have a purist approach to data modeling. So think about this. If I have originally when we had red brick, and that's when the star schemas first came out, and the star schema is very elegant, it has functional value, but the reason why it was created was because of performance. There was a lack of performance and lack of power on the box, and so they built it to face that lack of power. And then the other database engines called onto that and said, hey, we'll do star schemas too. And so that star schema became the mainstay for data marts and data warehousing and that kind of thing. And people even call that a data warehouse. And so what we have is this contrived set of structures in a general purpose model. Then we get over to this purpose-built model, and we can free ourselves of those contrived models and build the kind of model that we want. But for some reason, people are stuck in this purist model mode, and they say, I want my dimensions perfect, I want my facts perfect, everything in its place. And somebody comes along and says, all I'm really doing with this fact table, I need to pick off one column in that dimension over there. Why can't I have that column migrated over here onto the fact table so I don't have to do the join? It boosts all my queries if I don't have a join, and that makes perfect sense. The purist says, no, I don't want to do that. But the pragmatist says, I just want all the data where I can get to it. I want it consumption ready as fast as possible. We have that power in Netezza now. We have enough space, we have enough power. All the stuff is there for us to get it right. But if we go into this purist model mode, what we'll do is we'll actually sacrifice power, and the users won't like it. They'll have to do more work to navigate the data, and they won't get what they want. It's not purpose-built for them now. It's just another contrived model. One of the basic misunderstandings of one of these machines is that it's a very physical box. It's not really a database. I mean, if we looked up database in a dictionary, we'd see that it basically fits that description. But this is not a traditional relational database like we'd see in Oracle or Sybase. In those machines, we've used the queries to tune those things to get more power out of the box. That's not what this is. This is a massively parallel hardware architecture, and it's got a database facade sitting on top of it. So when we send queries into it, that SQL gets dispatched down into the bowels of the machine. And so with this massive parallel architecture, what we're really looking at is getting something very physical to work for us. And that means we need to get the data structures as close to the metal, close to the deep metal as possible. And what's going to happen here is that we'll have a structure that's aligned with the physics, and we'll have a query that's synergistically aligned with how the structure works. And when those two things are working in synergy, we get this stratospheric power. But what happens is that the structures are misaligned with the physics, or the queries don't leverage them right, and we're stuck in first gear. It's like having a machine that's just running in first gear, no different than a car that's stuck in first gear, and it won't go any faster than that. So what I would invite you to do is to hit the clutch. Just stop what you're doing, hit the clutch, shift gears, and get down in the deep metal. You want that deep metal power working for you. And in order to do that, there's just basic things you need to do to get the structures aligned down there, and then we get that synergistic power between the query and the data structure, and we'll see that kind of boost. And that's what we're really after. At Brightlight, we have people that have a lot of deep experience with this machine. We have people that can help you, buy back some capacity, maybe a little bit at a time. You may see a low-hanging fruit, and we can go after that, buy back some capacity, give you some breathing room, buy back some more, give you some breathing room. And what that does is it slowly gives you back the capacity that you need to where you have enough space in there where you can get some stuff done. A lot of times when people hit these tipping points, the box seems to be at capacity, and we just can't get anything done anymore. It's hit a wall. And so what we want to do is buy back some of that stuff and get some breathing room. And then that way that gives you some time to go back in and maybe actually rework some structures or redo some things that you need to do without having to do wholesale rework or this big bang cutover to other kinds of things. So we want to help you get there quickly, but we also want to help you get there safely. And the Netezza has the power. This is like being in a monster truck stuck in the mud. All you do is you shift the gear and you're out of the mud and you're on your way. And that's, it has the juice to make that happen. So what we want to do is show you how to make that happen and get it going. And there's a lot of different tricks and tips to make that go. We know what we're looking for. We know how to find those things. We know how to show you how to find those things and actually serve yourself and be a better capacity manager. It's not hard to do. These are very objective machines, very predictable machines, and they're very easy to manage, and we can show you what all those tricks look like. I'm David Birmingham with Brightlight Consulting. Give us a call.